It's okay, you'll survive, wakes up, oh my gosh, I have an arm, I can't wait to see my brother. Who do you think gave you the arm? Reblog if you cry every time.
Podcasts, the 21st Century Radio Show. Two friends were hit by a quarantine and found themselves bored in 2020. But they committed the one taboo among content creators. Never start a podcast because you're bored. Will they go mad? Give up? Or finish watching each other's favourite shows? Whatever happens, listen with care. For what could equal the horror of spoilers?
Welcome to the Sin and Violence Podcast. I'm Ginger.
And I'm Kara.
And in this show, we will be discussing and doing somewhat daily recaps of the series Life on Mars and the anime Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
And today's theme is, dude, you need to go back to bed.
We were discussing how, obviously, we didn't plan how things would line up. We just decided that timeline-wise, we'll be like, oh, we'll do one episode of Life on Mars, 2 episodes of FMA Brotherhood. And There's a lot of things that end up lining up in our episodes today. Just weirdly with our themes. So that was a interesting development.
Dude, you need to go back to bed is the big one, and please make room for my fave in the back seat. Is a minor one that's more a visual gag, but you know.
But it's so important.
Yeah.
I just now realized how well Annie and Alphonse would get along.
Oh my gosh, they would. They so would. Especially considering, like, every time his, part of his armor falls off, Annie would just be, like, ready to fix it.
Yes. But she really wouldn't know what to do, but she would be the one that's there with, like, oh, I have duct tape. Well, I mean, thank you, but it doesn't work really well, but thank you. And
she would 100% do her best, though.
Yes.
I really hope that this podcast leads to some super weird crossover fanfics.
Oh, God.
I'm not gonna do it, but someone out there, please do it.
I'm just thinking. And it would just basically, I can see it very easily happening, which is literally, you could do a very easy Life on Mars Fullmetal Alchemist AU. Mm-hmm. As in, Sam Tyler gets hit by a car in 2006. But instead of going back to 1973, he goes back to, like, 1913, 1915. Because this is not what happens in Brotherhood, so I'm just going to spoil this outright. The big twist in the 03 anime version of FMA is that the FMA world is actually a parallel world to the real world. And at the end of the show, Ed gets transported to the real world.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, this is part of why I don't like the ending to FMA, the original one.
Okay, so that is not what happens in Brotherhood.
Not at all. Definitely does not happen at all in Brotherhood. But there you go. There's our thing. So Sam Tyler is flung back in time to 1915. Maybe he's a State Alchemist, and he rocks into HQ, and who's his supervisor? He has to deal with Colonel Gene Hunt.
Oh no!
This is I'm not going to take up too much time with this, but you don't understand how perfect this is all mapping out in my head right now.
I can't breathe.
Please make Gene an alchemist. I don't know what he would do. But
oh my goodness, he would wreck everything. If you gave him that kind of power, oh my goodness. I mean, considering he's my fave, I want to be able to say, he would, lawful good, he'd have, justice, and he'd use it only for good. Nah, on off hours, he'd be, starting shit.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Anyway,
with that seedling out there.
Oh dear. Please let us know if you go there, listeners, because, yeah. Anyway. So, today's episode of Life on Mars is Season 2, Episode 3, the IRA episode, because, yeah. Also, I don't know if I said this in a previous podcast or if I cleverly cut out that I said it, but there's actually more than one guest writer in Life on Mars, and this is one of them. It is Julie Rutherford, and when we go on to Ashes, she has She's written 3 episodes of that, 1 per season. And just put a pin in this, I noticed she writes episodes that she really plays with like those long game underlying character motivations in some very good ways.
Are you saying I need to put a pin in that?
This is just general.
Okay.
Just, that's something that I noticed looking back, and you see it a little bit with Ray. It's not on the nose, but it's like, that is kind of what's in play here. So, yeah, there's that. Alright, so this is the IRA episode, and on the sort of secondary level, it's the, oh yeah, Sam's in a coma, will this leave him with brain damage? So, there's,
put a pin in that. I want to talk about that.
Exactly. Oh, so do I. So, the team is investigating a bomb that's been planted allegedly by the IRA. The bomb squad hasn't shown up yet. This was called in anonymously. Now, Sam believes this is a hoax because it is dynamite. The IRA used homebrew bombs, and in 1973 there were no other terrorist groups active in England. And Sam, when they are on the scene, he's like, I'm going to go up and I'm going to show you that there is nothing there. And Ray's like, oh, you're trying to impress Annie. I see how it is. And they go back and forth, and Sam finally goes, oh, wait, no, Ray, you're the big tough guy. Why don't you go and look? And it's this weird duck season, rabbit season kind of thing. So Ray ends up going out to this car that is set to explode, but Sam has said, no, it's a hoax. So he walks confidently up to this car, which explodes, and knocks
and
Ray...
then roll opening credits.
Roll opening credits. Yeah, that's the cold open.
Yeah.
So CID is understandably kind of pissed off at Sam because Ray is now in the hospital. It's really sad. Annie is passing around this little donation tin, and when Sam goes to put a note in, she's like, oh no, that's just for his friends. And it's like, even Annie's like, Meanwhile, there has been a call concerning stolen dynamite. And so Jean and Sam go to investigate this. It's at a builder's yard. It is largely manned by Irish workers. The overseer is a guy named Frank Miller. Casual racism ensues, mostly by Jean. As mentioned, there is dynamite missing from the site. They suspect that this has something to do with the car, but there is tons more missing than had been used on the car. So it's like, clearly someone took this and they're planning to set more bombs. As they are investigating the jackets and lockers of the largely Irish workforce, they find a list of potential targets and political papers in the pocket of a guy named, hooray, Patrick O'Brien.
And Jean's just call him Irish McIrishson over here.
Irish McIrishson, and Jean's like, yep, that works for me. So they pull in, all the workers. At one point, Phyllis threatens to strip them, I believe. But O'Brien is not there, so Jean and Sam are trying to track him down. He's not at his house, he's left, and they finally find him at the Irish Center, and he's talking with other Irish workers about equal wages and the like. They drag him in. Jean basically beats him up to the point that he needs to go to hospital, and after that happens, another bomb is called in an Irish accent. So Sam gets to go on site to that, and he gets to try and deactivate a bomb, because again, the bomb squad isn't there. So we have a nice, tense, 2 wires, which one do I cut moment, and then the bomb squad just pops in and does it for him. They're at the bar later. Ray comes back. He is very messed up. He really still needs to be in bed.
Yes.
Everyone's clapping for him, and they're like, oh, it's our big guy, he's back, what a hero. And Sam's like, no, look at him, he's not all there, this is PTSD. And Jean's like, no, he's a big, strong boy. Then we go back to Sam's apartment, and Kohai's best friend ever, the test card girl, shows up. And
listen, I'm kind of in here. I don't really find her that creepy or anything like that. I just find her very disturbing and just kind of like a, go away, I don't like you, please don't be here. Also because my first public interaction was me not saying the F word on Twitter about her to other people, so
I always wonder, like, what is it like for people who actually, were kids in the 70s and saw that exact test card and probably had those thoughts. In a weird way, I'm both jealous and not jealous of them for getting the full impact of that, but, So anyway, Sam's decision-making abilities are sort of called into question. She's like, how many people are gonna die because you choose wrong? Throwing back to the beginning of the episode. So next day, another bomb threat is called in at the Irish Center, and also O'Brien has made his way out of the hospital. Ray comes along with the team. He is still pretty messed up, and he's just kind of sitting there holding his gun, like looking like he has no idea and might shoot literally anyone at any time. Sam has to kind of talk him down a couple of times. They go into the Irish Center chasing down a guy through an empty swimming pool, which he
jumped into, which was one of the least intelligent things I've ever seen a fictional character do.
Sam.
No, Sam was not the one who did it. The guy she's chasing did it, but it was a very weird thing to see happen.
Yeah, well, so Ray takes aim at the guy. Sam warns this guy is unarmed. Ray shoots him anyway. Sam is not down with this because, well, this guy clearly needs to not be on the job. He needs to be at home recovering, and also the guy they were chasing wasn't O'Brien. So Sam wanders off to a church, specifically to a confessional, to sit and sort of vent off like, hey, I'm on this case. I believe this guy is innocent. I don't know what to do. The little thing goes up, and it's not a priest on the other side. It's O'Brien. And they have a little talk, and Sam's like, yeah, no, I think you're innocent, and I'm gonna make sure that you're cleared. Handcuffs him in the confessional. So Sam goes off on his own to investigate Miller's office. Annie comes along later, mainly to tell him that Jean wants to come and kick his ass. But she's like, no, I'll help you too. So they look around Miller's office, they find a letter, like a last call for several £1,000s payment, plus a map with all the bomb sites from previously, and one that has not been gone to yet. So it's becoming relatively obvious that Miller is the bomber. Threat is called in, once again an Irish accent, but not for the next place on the map, so Sam convinces the team to go to the place that is on Miller's map. And sure enough, they find Miller there, and Annie and Sam talk him down with some sort of talk about the family, like, by the way, I should have mentioned, the place marked on the map is a bank.
Dun, dun, dun.
Appropriately enough for the financial issues. Sam and Annie first, and then Sam sort of kicks in, talk him down, sort of, yeah, I know you're doing this for your family, but what would your family think of you? What would this do to your kids? Because they had found, stuff in his office that shows he has a daughter and all this. So they do talk him down, take him in. Jean and Sam let O'Brien go. O'Brien vents about being Irish in England. Jean takes it in for about 5 seconds and then starts yelling at an Asian guy with a TV. So it's... At the end, they all go to the pub, as you do. Sam comes in, and everyone applauds him. He puts money in Ray's fund, and he gets a call at the bar saying, hey, Sam, hang in there, believe in yourself, etc. And that is where we are left for this episode.
So before we get into anything discussion-wise, I just want to say that on a general, just like an episode thing, like this might have been my favorite episode of the series, if just because everything... There's a piece of, like, everything in here, and it's also an episode where I watched it, and then I was thinking about it yesterday, and I was like, that is an episode I feel like you could show if you, for some reason, were not going to show the first episode to a person, you could show that to anybody, and they could, like, get it.
Yeah.
Like, they could kind of understand everything about the series from this one episode. It's kind of like if you have to show one episode of Doctor Who to somebody, you have to make sure, you want to pick a good one, but you have to make sure you pick an approachable one.
Right.
And I feel like this is kind of like the best of all the worlds here, where it was the story is compelling, and it's interesting, and there's character stuff going on, but at the same time, it wasn't too deep into the Sam's in a coma thing. Like, it was, but it wasn't, and so I just thought overall, I'm like, that was a really good, it's like a nice complete package of an episode there.
It's really good. I like that, yeah, you're right, it doesn't go hard into it, but the coma stuff, the theme of it is actually, it's there, but it's in these light touch ways where it's like the theme of one potential brain damage. We see that with Ray coming back from the hospital and his lapses of judgment and his literal inability through no fault of his own to keep his shit together.
Right.
And to, Sam's own lapses of judgment just in the moment when it comes to like daring Ray to go out to the car, the bomb squad stuff. So yeah, there is that. And I also like that we have a very strong, here is how Sam is addressing his time in this place. Here is how he treats his knowledge of the future. And here is how it plays out. That one thing that happens in the end is Sam and Jean are both right. Like, it is correct. It was not the IRA. Like, it was a dude who was using the IRA as a cover, his own workers as a cover, but Jean was also right. So it's that very perfect balance of Sam's future knowledge is both a help and a hindrance. Jean's gut instinct is a help and a hindrance, and it meets somewhere in the middle. It was very well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So coming back around to the what happened with Ray.
Yeah. So I said to you when we were watching it, like, when he comes back and he's at the bar, he's clearly, like, his eyes are wide and he's not all there. It's very visually clear right away. Besides, like, he has, like, the cuts and kind of, like, some scabs on his face. But he's not all there. And and Sam goes, like, Jean's like, oh, no, he's fine. And Sam goes, no, he has PTSD. And I'm like, he looks like he has a concussion to me.
Yeah, it's like, you're both wrong, fellas.
Yeah, you're both wrong here. Where, and I said, like, so I have had a traumatic face injury, but it was not to my brain. It was to my face on the bottom part, opposite the brain. So I actually have surprisingly not had experiences with a concussion before, but I know, like, the general idea about them. But I just said to Cara, I was like, I think he has a concussion, and I don't really know what I'm talking about. Do you have any more insight into this?
Because I actually have had concussion. It was many years ago. I was in a car accident, and it's not fun. Once in a while, like, vague things from it resurface. But at the time, and in, like, the couple of years following, like, I remember when I first saw the episode, because when that episode first came out, that would have been maybe 4 years after the car accident. And I remember just looking at Ray's face and going, oh, yeah, it's concussion. Because I could just see in his eyes and go, I know how he feels right now. So, kudos to both Dean Andrews, who's a wonderful actor, and to whoever advised him on that.
Yeah.
Because whenever he was having one of those sort of aura moments where you can just see that he's kind of drifting and he doesn't know where his hand is, and he's like 5 miles out the back of his own body. It's like, yep, exactly.
Is it like I don't want to pry too much, but is it sort of like, because he just looked out of it, you know what I mean? Like, just in that whole, like, thing, and in that time span, what is happening? Like, is your brain just not there? Like, do you have, like, a memory lapse? Like, so is it, like, an out-of-body thing?
So, for me, it's going to be different for a lot of people,
yeah.
But I have temporal lobe damage. So, it all manifests differently, but, again, it really does look like an absent seizure kind of thing.
Okay.
Where, for me, I'm about 50% aware of what's going on. It's kind of like, I'm here, I see and hear everything, and, I know where I am, but it's kind of like I'm pulled back and in, and it's like, I really could and should be reacting to a lot of things, but I can't.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like, there's this feeling that I'm like one strong impulse away from actually connecting to the world, but it's just not there.
Okay, because that actually does trend. If that is what he was told to do, basically, if Dean Andrews was told to act that way, that's what I kind of got the sense of,
It's like he's kind of, when he was sitting in the back seat and he just kind of had the gun in his hand. Now, granted, I have never done that because I do not own a gun.
You've never been a 1970s cop? What?
I have never been a 1970s. I have never just sat there in the middle of an absent seizure with, like, a gun pointing upward. No, but that sort of complete lapse from what you're doing, and then when you finally do come back and it's like, okay, technically I know where I've been and what I've been about, but now I'm connecting the dots and going, oh shoot, yeah, that's probably bad. It's so whenever I see that episode, I'm just, however that scene was put together, it's like that is spot on. So Sam
Gotcha.
is very wrong about it being PTSD. I've never had PTSD, but, I have had concussion. I can be like, that is absolutely what that is.
Okay.
Especially since he got thrown back really hard from that car. He got his bell rung pretty bad. So yeah, again, very impressed by that whole thing. And again, how it ties into Sam's meta story of the episode.
Right.
A small fun point that I had forgotten until I was, going through the wiki. Frank Miller, who is the villain of the episode. Frank Miller is the name of the villain in High Noon, which is Gene's favorite movie.
Interesting.
Yeah, now I have seen High Noon. I do recommend it to people. It's a very good Western, just in and of itself. So, but yeah, I love that little nod, and you have seen and will see little nods to Gary Cooper and High Noon going forward. Besides the poster in his office and the general near religious devotion to American Westerns.
That seems to be I'm just pointing this out here. This is now the second British person I know who is obsessed with the American West and Westerns.
Who's the first one?
The first one is also a person that you like, that we both like, actually.
Oh!
Yeah.
So good. Well, I mean, Westerns are super good.
I just think it's really funny, or I'm like, I didn't really know that the Brits were into the American West, although I guess it's kind of like, the most mythical we got as America. We're too young to have swords and sorcery going around.
Yeah, it's our version of that sort of heroic legend. Mm-hmm. It really is all we got.
But that's interesting.
Yeah. This episode also has one of my favorite lines in Life on Mars as a whole. Mm-hmm. You're in for an even bigger disappointment than when we found out the Plonk Doris Bangs was a name and not a promise. I appreciate that line so much. It's good. This is a very well-written episode for characters.
Yeah, also, I want to continue on my theme of my theory still holds true here. My theory is still, it was, if anything, very much reinforced, because where does Sam go in his time of need? He goes to a church, but we have Irish people in this episode. So he went to the church of my people. He went to a Catholic church.
The church of your people.
Yes. As mentioned before, I am Catholic, and so when he goes into, he's doing that thing where, because was it after the pool where the guy jumped in the pool? Or was it after that?
Yeah,
scene?
it was
Sam
just
was
after that.
Sam was like, I'm gonna go somewhere else, and Gene's like, fine, whatever, I don't care. And Sam wanders around, and then he walks, and he's like, a church. And obviously we're talking an Irish community, so I understand the placement. But he goes into the church, and then he goes into a confessional, which, again, is just, one of those interesting things. And not only that, but actually in this episode, I think it was in the Sam's dream sequence in his apartment, I once again noticed his medallion. So it's once again a prominent thing featured in the episode. And I'm so, invested in this theory that I'm like, I know I'm going to be so brutally wrong in five episodes. But I'm like, I really like this theory. It's one of the more intelligent thoughts I've had recently. So,
my job here, as with all theories on this podcast, is to go.
But I actually thought it was actually pretty interesting, and just it in this instance, I mean, this is Sam has not punched God in the face, but it's like in Fullmetal Alchemist when we're talking about how Ed and Al are just like, we don't believe in God, and we're constantly questioning, well, why not?
I'm not a very religious type. You've literally seen God.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just one of those things where Sam does the prerequisite of, I'm not a big believer, and I haven't done this and this and this, but he said things that made me go, but are you Catholic?
I mean,
But I mean, like, it's one of those aspects where it was a choice that was made, and I look at the decision made to go to the church and everything, and I go, So I'm just gonna, this is my corner segment called Ginger's Theory Still Holds Strong, and it's gonna be valid for a few more episodes.
But will your theory hold strong for 2 whole shows?
I promise nothing for Ashes to Ashes. I actually have an idea about Ashes to Ashes, just going off of very vague things that you've said before. I am also, because you showed me a certain clip from the show that is, kind of is bizarre, so... and I just feel that Ashes to Ashes is going to be different from Life on Mars, so... And I'm really excited to see, why, for instance, why does Jean show up in Ashes to Ashes, which takes place in the 80s, and this is 1970. I'm just very curious about all these things, which is why I haven't let go of my theory yet. Because my theory works. Again, listeners, my theory being that Sam is dead and this is purgatory or whatever. That would then imply that Jean and the crew are they're like trials or figures, or if he's in hell, maybe they're like demons. I don't know. But this is this kind of thing where, the whole in a coma thing is not limited to him being on a mortal plane. He could be wherever. He could think of wherever he wants to be. He could be going through wherever he wants to be going through. So yeah, so that doesn't mean that Ashes to Ashes has to adhere to that same reality, though. Just saying.
Or he could be, he could be Ollie in the thick of it.
Oh, Sam Tyler's actually Ollie Reeder. There we go. That's the real story.
When Malcolm is saying, "Oh, I'm so scared that you're in a coma, dreaming of being a gay policeman in the '70s," and yeah. An actual line from the thick of it.
From the thick of it, uttered by one Malcolm Tucker. Because 95% of the quotable lines from the thick of it are said by Malcolm Tucker.
I was so delighted when I saw that episode and I saw him doing that little rant, and then I just heard of Life on Mars. I was like, oh, that's so good.
But no, there we go. Sam Tyler is actually Ollie Reeder. Boom, done. There's backup theory.
Ship it, send it out, we're done.
Yeah.
You don't even need to watch
the label on. Boom, out the door.
So, anything else on this episode of Life on Mars?
No, I just wanted to emphasize again. I really liked it. I liked it.
So yeah, I am actually really glad that we see Julie Rutherford come back for every season of Ashes to Ashes, one time. And
Good.
she does write some of my favorite episodes in that too.
Cool.
So yeah, you'll get to see more quality like that.
I like quality in my television.
You like quality television. Yeah. We all like, well, most of us like quality television. A handful of us have no taste. I'm not naming names.
I was gonna say that's me on most days, but
I was gonna say I'm not naming names, me. But
at least we can admit to liking trash,
I love a lot of trash. This is not trash. I just happen to have... This is one of my occasional good taste. A good taste show in a sea of, largely anime garbage.
Okay, Fullmetal Alchemist then. I see.
Yay!
Yeah. Fullmetal Alchemist. Our episodes we watched were episode 21, Advance of the Fool, and episode 22, Backs in the Distance. So episode 21 starts with, we pick up where we left off. Roy and Havoc are in the hospital. It gets revealed Havoc is now paralyzed from the waist down, so he's going to go into retirement. I'm going to just get that one out there. Ray is instead kind of trying to, he's trying to work out...
Ray or Roy?
Ray? Roy. Wow, I didn't realize until now that we have a Ray and a Roy.
We have a Ray Carling, Roy Mustang.
Oh, jeez.
Ray Mustang.
And they look nothing alike.
They really are nothing alike.
They're like the polar opposites of visuals. Like, the closest that Ray looks to an FMA character is I'm like, well, he has like an Armstrong mustache, and that's really all I got for you there.
And that's about it, yeah.
Yep. Anyway, so they're in the hospital. Alright. We get some information about... We see the homunculus are kind of like, Wrath... no, not Wrath. Envy. It says to King Bradley, who is Wrath, homunculus. He's like, why didn't you kill him? Why did you let them kill us? What the hell? And King Bradley, basically they reveal that, no, we can't kill Mustang. Mustang is one of our candidates for sacrifice. They've also mentioned before that Al and Ed are also quote-unquote candidates for sacrifice. But for what? We don't know yet. That's gonna play out in the future. So back in the hotel of Ed and company, Ed has a theory about why he believes he can get Al's soul back is, he says, well, when we were trying to figure out what we could swap out for Mom's soul, they were like, what they said was they were like, we use our blood, figuring blood was enough for a soul. Okay. And because of that, though, their blood mixed, and so Ed believes he has a link to Alphonse, because Al's body is in the gate. The gate is what every alchemist, we've seen that with Ed and Al and Izumi, like, they see this when they perform human transmutation, the gate opens and they see truth, and this whole thing. The debate actually is whether what we've been calling God isn't God, but it's like a form, basically. It's like a shorthand for that, but it's really called truth. So what they see in the gate is truth. And everyone has their own version of truth. So that's kind of, just to kind of put that caveat out there, because they kind of go back and forth with what they call it. So, in the hospital, Roy is doing some reading. He desperately wants to fix Havoc, because, he needs his dudes if he's gonna do his whole plot. And he runs into the guy that we met in the episode, the guy who identified Maria Ross's not body. His name is Dr. Knox, and he's there because they were both military, they have a military buddies background. They were both in the Ishval War, is what I'm getting at here. Dr. Knox, surprisingly, is one of those characters where you feel like he would not do anything, but he actually is going to be more of a player in the future, too. And this is whole thing where I'm like, you cannot basically any named character, you cannot just write off in Fullmetal Alchemist. Like, they are probably gonna, you don't even know, they are probably gonna come back, and they're probably gonna be very important, which is crazy to me sometimes with some of them. But Roy is, working on that, and they get he gets a lead from Ed and Al, like, oh, go see this Dr. Marco guy. Well, Roy sends one of his dudes to go check out Dr. Marco, but Dr. Marco's not there, so we can presume he's been kidnapped or something because his house is in disarray. And then Ed is basically like, I hear that Scar is out and about. So Ed and Al want to also get the attention of the homunculus, because in part of their notes that they found out, because Hawkeye can remember crazy stuff like the following: I counted the amount of steps I took when we entered the basement of the laboratory, and I figured out that this is how far away that one room was. So Hawkeye has deduced that when they were in the room with Al, Hawkeye, Lust, and Mustang in this big white room previously that had the big door, and they're like, what's that crazy door for? So they figured, Hawkeye says, I figured out where that room was, and here is a radius of where we possibly could have been. And part of the circle that she draws, it is underlining central headquarters, and so they're like, oh, they mean that King Bradley is involved in all this? Because they don't remember, none of them know that King Bradley is a homunculus. They're just like, oh, something's rotten in the state of a mistress, and it goes to the core. It goes to the core and the heart, and blah, 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 blah. So Ed and Al want to lure out the homunculus, and then they hear Scar's around. They figure if we are very showy and get his attention, Scar will fight us, but the homunculus have said that we're sacrifices, and they will not kill us. They will actually probably protect us. So they're basically saying, this is how we lure out the homunculi, is we're gonna go fuck around with Scar and get his attention. And, that's how that episode plays out. And at the end of it, they do find Scar and they do get into a fight. Ling and Lan Fan have agreed to help Ed and Al because they rang up a huge room service tab, and so they owe Ed. They're like, thanks for dinner. We will protect you from the deadly, deadly homunculi then. And at the end of the episode, King Bradley and Gluttony have found Ling and Lan Fan, and cue fight that goes to the next episode.
Woo!
In episode 22, we have this fight. Lan Fan manages to break King Bradley's sword, but King Bradley manages to chop her arm, and so she's bleeding from an arm. Ling gets her, they jump off into a building, and Ling goes on this whole thing of, a true leader. He protects his people, doesn't leave people behind, so we're not seeing a direct relationship between, for instance, Mustang and Ling, but we're seeing a parallel between these two, where Mustang will not leave any of his men behind, in the same way that Ling, and we don't really know Ling too much so far, But we do know Ling's motivation. So we now know, okay, Ling is also on this whole side of, I will protect my gang. And what's that term, that the Japanese word that people for One Piece always use?
Oh, Nakama.
My Nakama.
Yeah.
Ling will protect his Nakama.
Yeah.
And we don't actually get too much of this fight. They get into a bit of a, Ling and Wrath get into a bit of a sword fight. Then they light off like a flashbang. They're gonna get out of the room, and then, King Bradley is like, haha, I have a magical eye that can see everything. So they're still in a fight. Mostly we're cutting to Ed and Al fighting Scar. And, they're doing this whole blow by blow, da-da-da-da. They're fighting, whatever. Winry, meanwhile, has, she did see the Hughes family in the last episode. Or was it this episode? I don't remember. At some point in time, Winry saw the Hughes people. Oh, she heard over, like, the radio some kind of military calls going out of Scar, messing some stuff up because of the Elric brothers. She decides, basically, I'm gonna go find them, which is not probably a smart idea. And she ends up basically coming across their fight. And in this fight, Ed says to Scar, because Ed learned in a couple episodes ago that Scar was the Ishvalan who killed Winry's parents, who were doctors during the war. And he basically is like, well, why'd you do it? And he goes on this whole rant about it, because Scar is doing this whole thing of alchemy is a disgrace to God, and how you can't, this is terrible, and I will destroy all of you. And so Alphonse is like, but you're doing the same thing. And, but Scar is like, I'm already on this path to damnation, all that stuff. But Winry happens upon this fight right when Ed is saying to him, like, why did you kill those innocent doctors? So she overhears this basically accidentally. Now we get a flashback to the Ishvalan War, which has been alluded to a few times, and there actually still is kind of more to be built upon it. But what we learned so far is basically, it is a Scar cut flashback. So Scar, he's cutting back to his time in Ishval, which is his home country, which is actually a place that's to the south direction, southeast of Amestris. And I'm actually a little confused. I've always thought it was a country, but it seems to be implied to be a city. But I'm not really quite too certain about that. But basically, Ishval is a part of Amestris, because Scar at one point says we were Amestrian citizens, but why is the military coming and killing all of us? So basically, the military is marching upon their land. They're doing mass slaughter. And, Scar and his family are like, we need to get out of here. And Scar goes to his brother. His brother has studied alchemy and alchemy. And he gives Scar his notes, basically saying, you're trained to be a warrior. You're going to get out of this. You have a better chance of living than I do. As they're about to leave, this guy named Kimbley shows up, who we've seen in the shadows way back towards the beginning. He's been in prison, so now we get to see him in person. He was a State Alchemist. He just kind of blows everything up, and in the chaos of what happens, Scar's brother's the only one who remains untouched in all of this, or he's a little bit injured. He looks and sees his brother, and Scar has just lost an arm, which is more brutal visually than I remember it being.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
His arm is gone. His whole family is basically dead from this attack, and his brother, as we learn in the next scene, his brother decides to give Scar one of his arms, and Scar wakes up in the field hospital later, and he lifts his arm up, and he sees it's the arm with his brother's tattoos on it. So Scar, as you might be aware, freaks out. And when he does freak out, the thing that he's seeing is what the scene is done in sort of like a monochromatic sort of way, or a very desaturated color palette. But what you see is that all the Amestrian soldiers have like blue eyes, basically, and Winry's parents also have blue eyes. So when he wakes up, he sees this Amestrian doctor over him, and he just kind of flies into a rage, and in the anger, he kills Winry's parents. And that is why when Ed learns from the other Ishvalans about that, he basically deduces that, it's Scar. And so Scar, then we smash cut to present, and Scar's just sort of like, yeah, I did it, which, okay, fine, if you want to kill me, go ahead, but don't you know that you're perpetuating the cycle of violence and all that stuff, which we've heard before. Like, Scar has been told that before by, like, an Ishvalan elder, previously, so Scar, he's being told this, but also, now he's also doing that whole thing where instead of taking the lesson to heart himself, he's using it on other people.
Yeah.
And Winry has, I forgot, did I mention that Winry has a gun? She picked up a gun from a fallen soldier.
Winry has a gun.
Winry with a gun. She picked it up from a fallen soldier. She is crying, breaking down. She's aimed at him. She's gonna shoot him. Because she's just like, why did you kill my parents? Why? Bring them back. Why did you do that? And, I'll be honest, I forgot why Scar gets away from the fight. I know, because Al is fighting Scar. Ed takes Winry somewhere safer and basically convinces her, don't do it. Winry, your hands were made for protecting life rather than taking life. And we end the episode there with Winry crying into Ed, and it's really depressing. So these were two, like, not very fun episodes.
They were rough. I mean, they were very good, but they were real rough.
Yeah. There's a lot, and we're finally getting into stuff where it's like we're getting more into, again, more backstory and more world building that,
oh yeah,
it's one of those, and we're not done yet. Like, there's still things to be said here, but you're like, oh, okay, now I know why Scar is killing all the State Alchemists. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, this is making sense now.
It's like, oh, there's his motivation.
Yep, there it is. I found it.
I see it.
Mm-hmm. So, like I said, there's a very lot in there, especially in this one. I actually was watching this one a bit recently because I was trying to get some reference images for a project I'm in, and it's really sad because part of the themes has been, for example, that, like, Ed and all of these kids, Ed, Al, and Winry, have not had their parents since they were very little kids. But yeah, so basically, like, Ed and Al don't have any parents because their dad left to go to the gas station, mom died, and then Winry's parents were killed when she was very young. And and I just find that so just, like, utterly depressing, where in the very least, at least there's Panaka, who's Winry's grandmother, taking care of her.
Yeah.
But just, there's lots of depressing parental loss in this series.
Yeah. A lot of no parents.
Yeah, a lot of I think, so I just looked up on the wiki, I think Winry's parents died 7 years prior to the series. Oh. So when she was about, like, 7, 8 years old. Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
other than crying about this episode, did you...
So the whole Scar's whole situation has been very, very curious to me. I knew that, like, again, like, they bring this guy in, and I knew that at some point they were gonna dump his entire deal on us, and I was gonna go, oh, okay. Like, I knew that when I saw it, it was gonna, I don't want to use the word understandable.
But I think it's like, because he's introduced as just this dude who's just killing people, and you have no context, like, you have no info. So I think then you're like, we have backstory, motivations,
Yeah, it's like, oh, here we are, I see what's up. And the thing I said when we were watching it, and I know in the moment this probably came off as horribly flippant, but it is a genuine observation, is that Scar's brother is basically the personification of those reblog if you cry every time memes of the girlfriend waking up from heart surgery and asking for her boyfriend. and who do you think gave you the heart? It's like, literally, he's that guy.
He is that guy.
He is that guy where it's like, it's okay, you'll survive, wakes up, oh my gosh, I have an arm, I can't wait to see my brother. Who do you think gave you the arm? Reblog if you cry every time.
The thing is, I actually don't think Scar knew he lost an arm.
I know.
I think that's part of the because for a moment when he wakes up, he lifts his arm up and he goes, brother? It's like he thinks his brother is there. And, like,
I'm obviously stretching the point.
I know. I'm also just saying, though, that I think it's actually more of a mindfuck that it wasn't like he knew it wasn't like Ed, for instance, where Ed knows he lost limbs, and then one day he woke up and he had not his limbs, but like Owl's, for instance, that, like, not only do you, like, find that, number one, you've learned that you've lost your arm, and then number two, you learn that you have your brother's arm, all in the same moment.
Yeah. That's a lot.
It's a lot to take in. So, it all makes sense. I get it. But yeah, no, it's, who do you think gave you the arm?
And again, it's like, I don't want to make light of this scene. It was amazing and, emotional, but it's like, yeah, that is kind of what happened.
Yeah, no.
But, oh my gosh, that whole thing, it was,
It's brutal, and not only that, but I think it raises, because again, you're not just getting, like, it isn't just a story of one force invades other place and kills the people, because I think it's actually really important that they explicitly say, we are citizens of this country, what is going on here? As in, they didn't have any they're like, it's very confusing as to why this conflict is suddenly happening. Yeah. So, just as a me knowing where this is leading to, this is actually very interesting to me to kind of like be picking up on these clues earlier than I remember them happening. So it's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that is it isn't just the normal storytelling. It's actually like, oh, there's more kind of world building and history here that definitely would like genuinely shock somebody, as opposed to like that general like, oh, we're in war, okay, I get it, but yeah, no, why is this happening? So that's going to be interesting to see how that one, again, like how that develops and how it builds up to the more backstory. There's more backstory to come, and it's definitely not fun.
Yeah, I really was so interested in the way that in Scar's flashbacks they did the blue eyes. Mm-hmm. Because, we've spent these last 20-odd episodes, they talk about, the Ishvalans who have, the white hair and the red eyes, and then to sort of turn it around and be like, yeah, these people with their crazy blue eyes. And it's like, oh, yeah, that would be really weird to them, wouldn't it?
Yeah. When I see those scenes, it makes it feel really awkward having blue eyes. Like, oh, do my blue eyes glow neon in the desert? I need to find out.
I 100% think they do.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely. We'll just go to a desert at some point and you'll see.
All right, perfect.
Hooray! But yeah, the thing is, it's like the issue of Winry's parents has been a very background thing. Mm-hmm. We've been hearing so much about Ed and Al's life. It's like when we first see Winry, it's like, okay, yeah, we're aware that her parents aren't there. Mm-hmm. So, but then again, how many anime parents are?
True,
so,
yeah, exactly, yeah.
So you kind of, I don't want to say brush it off, but you kind of do if you watch a lot of anime.
No,
you're like, okay.
You do, you really do. Especially because in so many animes, it's like not treated very importantly. They'll just be like, oh, my parents died when I was a kid, da-da-da-da-da. I remember I actually once asked my friend, who is Japanese and has a lot more familiarity with like Japan and how Japan operates and its culture. I was like, can you please tell me, like, why is it so many anime kids where it takes place, even if it takes place in Japan, like, they're 16 and their parents aren't there? Like, is it common for parents to just be traveling the world on business trips all the time? And she's like, no, that's just an anime thing.
Yeah, I do know that, like, there was for a time, I remember the marketing things they would do where it's like, hey, parents really need to, associate with their children a little bit, and they had these. So I think there may have been times when the family unit was not necessarily as close as it could be, but that's true anywhere. True.
But it is interesting just because also FMA does have a really heavy emphasis on family. Mm-hmm. And not just, I know it's the whole nakama, the whole, like, found family is obviously, it's always an integral trope to any anime, especially shonen, but I think Fullmetal Alchemist is different where it does have a heavy emphasis on, like, family, like, blood family.
They really do.
Yeah, which is definitely different than a lot of series, and it especially shows the impact of having or not having parents around to a kid.
Oh, yeah. That's something I've been noticing that kind of surprised me about this is how much, like, yeah, there's still the thing of, oh, hey, the parents aren't here, but then it's like, as opposed to it being, womp womp, I guess I just live alone, it's like, it's a thing. It's not just a convenience so that the characters,
don't
can
have
go
curfew.
out, don't have curfew and aren't gonna get stopped from, like, saving the world, in so many anime, it would be like, well, yeah, this is how we can just have them traveling from city to city with no one being particularly concerned about it.
Right.
But, here it's like, the absentee parents, oh no, that's a plot point.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so rare, and So the whole thing of Winry's parents not being around kind of fell into, anime trope category, and then we started seeing, oh yeah, Winry's parents. Yeah, they did things and stuff, and they got killed.
Yeah, not only that, but that backstory actually it adds to the anime plot.
Uh-huh.
Like, it wasn't just, and the thing is, they were in the O3 anime, they were killed still in the Ishval War. That hasn't changed, but who did it is different.
Ah.
But it actually has meaning in this version.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was interesting for that to sort of come forward like that. And for it to... It really kind of just jumped forward. It was like, okay, she's a person who's here and we like her, to, here's what happened to her parents, to, okay, now she's got a gun. And... Like, we jumped all the way there, but it was so... I was suffering. It was really emotional.
Yeah.
It was... And you kind of wonder, it's like, maybe for her it was kind of a background thing, and maybe it was as big a jump. It really was that big. Whenever I see something, and I think we talked about this with an episode of Life on Mars, where it could have gone one way or the other, but whenever I see... a long-standing thing of a character introduced suddenly, I go, okay, that could be because it was just thrown in. With Brotherhood, it's an adaptation of a completed manga, so we have all the puzzle pieces we need.
Yeah.
And I go, it's for the story of her parents to lurch forward like that feels like... It almost feels like an imitation of just how quickly that may have been pulled forward in her own mind. Do you get what I'm saying?
I do.
That basically she's going along, and then all of a sudden she just rounds the corner like, oh yeah, and that's how her parents died.
That would be, the thing is, like, as I mentioned earlier, this happened to her 7 years ago, 7 to 8 years ago, depending on how old the character is. So it did happen a while ago, and it happened when she was younger. So it is possible that's just one of those things where you don't remember stuff from when you were little, and also it's been 7 years, so you've kind of you've accepted it, etc. So I do think that's part of it, but also, as you were mentioning, though, this is adapted from a completed manga, and so it was all paced out. It all kind of was paced out anyway. It wasn't like, and now we're going to focus on Winry for 2 episodes. It was, well, Ed went to the desert, Ed found the Ishvalan people, they told him about the dude with the scar who killed the Amestrian doctors. Ed concluded it was his, her parents. Now we're back in Central, and he's fighting Scar, and he's also upset about it, because he knew them too. So he, is angry about Scar, and Winry was in Central, and Winry was probably like, what are those dipshits doing this time? And went to go find them, and happened upon the scene. So obviously the timing is convenient and all that kind of stuff, but it's an anime, so we let it roll.
But it really, but storytelling wise,
that, and also because that was not what she was expecting to hear that day, Right. It wasn't like how the boys are on a quest to get their bodies back after trying to get their mom back. So they're kind of like, the boys are always pursuing the horrors of alchemy, right? But Winry is not out with a vengeance to avenge her parents.
Yeah.
And so when you get, like, sudden information that way, like, think about when you're not thinking about something and then something suddenly happens in your life, it ruins your day.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is the fact that it comes up so suddenly for us. It's like, oh, that was like a real smack in the face. Mm-hmm. If it's a smack in the face for us, imagine what it was like for Winry.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, oh my god. Mm-hmm. I just thought I was gonna, fix some arms and legs today, but now I gotta get revenge.
Yeah.
But I do love that thing, because the other thing is, I always, not always, but a lot of times when I see revenge stuff, a lot of people say it's not worth it, and I'm like, I don't know, sometimes it might be.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Yeah, it's like, it really depends on what it is and how it's done, and I'm talking in the fictional sense, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm just covering my ass right now.
I
am a decent, law-abiding human being. But from a fictional standpoint, sometimes when I see people going, "Don't do it, it's not worth it," I'm like, I don't know, my dude.
I don't know. See, from this angle, it looks pretty worth it.
So when it's not just it's not worth it. It's, hey, here is the thing that you do that brings joy to the world.
And not only, because on top of that, like, because as mentioned, Ed says, like, you delivered a baby in Rush Valley, you gave me, an arm and a leg, and not only, like, but your parents were doctors, and they were doing what they do, even in their last moments. Like, I just think it's very thematically appropriate. And also because in Fullmetal Alchemist, as I forgot if we talked about this on the show or off the show, but it's like alchemy, for the most part, as we see it, is rather destructive. And so, and it's been, Mei Chang does alchemy, which is more medicinal. But as far as we know, we mostly see alchemy in, like, a fighting context. And so we see a lot of destruction and chaos in this series. And so to actually have a character who's not a fighter, but she's just equally as important with what she does, because obviously, Ed, I don't know why I confuse Ed and Al so much. I think it's just a verbal thing, because I definitely do not confuse him in my mind. Like, Ed would not be able to do what he's doing without Winry. Period. You know? Like, that's a fact. So I think it's always good to remind, especially the audience and just us, that it's important to have these characters too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times, up until very recent episodes, like super recent, we keep hearing, oh, it's a thing of creation and of destruction. It's like, well, frankly, we're seeing the destruction mostly.
Right.
So when you start seeing, it starts being introduced very late, it's like, oh, hey, I know we talk about how this is a thing, but here we're actually going to start showing you how it's a thing now.
I will say, I think, I was watching a bunch of YouTube videos today, and actually I watched a thing about Avatar: The Last Airbender, and about how bending is used in that series, because the idea of bending is that, yes, you can use it for fighting, but it's a spiritual art too.
Right.
And so it can be used for more than just fighting. And I think that show went to very laborious ways to remind you of this, that this was just a tool, basically. And I think in Fullmetal Alchemist, I'm really not even criticizing it. I just think that with the characters that we're behind people who are getting into fights all the time. Yeah. Of course we're going to see a lot of fighting and a lot of destructive alchemy. And I'm like, no, I swear that alchemy can be used to... Actually, we saw it in this episode where the brothers were trying to lure Scar out. So they're going around and they're, like, fixing broken things, and they're repairing things,
and people were even commenting, like, y'all are being weird.
Yeah.
Like, they're actually going out there and they're using their alchemy to do good and to help people, and people are actually commenting on, this is kind of strange, y'all. Right.
Yeah, the implication being, I mean, because it does make sense, where it is kind of like, oh, you're doing this for free. If I was an alchemist in Fullmetal Alchemist world, I would open up a shop, and it'd be like a repair shop, but I'd do all alchemy repairs. But the implication there is that you would pay me to do it. So Ed and Al Ed mostly is running around and, like, doing stuff for free, basically. And, oh, no, don't thank me. Oh, I do it for you, Because all he's doing is trying to lure Scar out. But yeah, so I mean, we saw it there, that it can fix things too, and it's good, and you can create tacky baby characters with it.
I love Al's little fans. That was my favorite thing about that whole sequence.
I know.
Is Ed's running around like, it's me, Edward Alaric, the great State Alchemist, who is right here in case you want to fight me. And then little Al just running around the back with his little fans, little cat face blob, like, yay, brother! And
it's one of those things where if Al does the cat face thing, I know, I'm like, I automatically know what Kara's favorite thing in this scene is.
It is just, I love the Fearless Chibis, always, but whenever he does a little face, I'm like, no.
Oh, which actually reminds me, I think the best scene in the episodes was the part where Winry's gonna go back to Risen Bull, but Ed knows he's gonna try and lure Scar out, and so Scar might break his arm apart. And so Ed goes, oh, why didn't you stay a little bit longer in case I break my arm and I need you? And Winry smacks him with a wrench. And, like, you see her yelling at him because she's like, are you intending to break it? And Al in the background goes, I got your soul, brother! Because he's trying to drag the little soul sprite back down.
Every day I sit here going, how is a giant spiked beefy suit of armor possessed by the spirit of a sinful child. So damn adorable.
Well, because first of all, Alphonse Elric may have committed the ultimate sin of life and alchemy, but he is not a bad child.
This is true. He is a good child.
He is flawed.
I was actually talking with one of my coworkers just in a private chat. We were talking about shows and stuff, and I mentioned watching Brotherhood with you, and she was just like, oh, Al is my baby, and it's like, Al is everyone's baby.
Oh, yes. Unrelated, but when I was watching my video splurge today, part of them were Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood videos about how good the show is, basically. And one of the things was the video person is going down a list of the characters, and one of his lines was, Armstrong, your favorite character. And I go, how does he know? So, like, Armstrong is, like, the universal favorite, but also, like Alphonse is just a delight. And everyone's favorite, too.
It's that whole, who's your favorite FMA character and why is it Armstrong?
Yes.
He's so good, too. It's like, again, I remember as we were first recording, it's like, boy, the first time I saw him, I thought he was just going to be a mess or annoying or arrogant or terrible. And then, like, 2 seconds in, oh, no, you're great.
Yeah. Like, you're thinking, oh, he's going to be an asshole, but he's, in fact, just wonderful and
he's so
lovely.
And supportive.
Yes. And, like, 8 feet tall.
and supportive in his way.
Yes.
And I believe in the dub he is voiced by All Might.
Yes.
Same dude.
Yeah, which would make sense.
Who is also a lovely, supportive individual, from what I understand.
Yes, I have seen the My Hero Academias and can confirm.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't remember if it was for the Crunchyroll Awards or something. Yes, it was, I think, All Might, he got a Best American Voice Actor award from the Crunchyroll Awards. Yeah, he won like 2 years ago.
Nice.
And he recorded a thank you video. And I was like, oh, you're lovely.
Did you have a favorite violence to this this week?
Oh my. in this time span. Oh, favorite violence. I don't know. I think I find it hard to. Gene did a lot of punching in this episode.
Oh yeah, he did.
He did a whole bunch of punching.
I explicitly told you at one point, I was like, I typed out punch a lot, but I remember explicitly saying to you, just being like, man, there's a lot of punching in this episode, I love it.
Yep. Yeah, this was a pretty heavy duty punching episode. A lot of it was, this is one of those things where it's like, okay, my fave, that is unnecessary. It's in character and also unnecessary. So I can't call those my favorite. I think my favorite violence was actually verbal violence when Phyllis threatened to strip all those guys.
Yeah. I was gonna say when the guy jumped into the empty pool, but I'm like, that doesn't really count. But I do like the Phyllis, basically being like, I'll strip all of you.
Phyllis is one of the unsung heroes of this show.
Yeah.
She's so good. She's so good, and she has such ugly sweaters, and she just wants to go to the pub and smoke and drink and just vibe to the music, and she never asked for any of this. So, Sin.
Would you count Scar's brother giving him his arm?
I mean, I would count it from the...
If we're gonna say all alchemy is sin... I think, to me, I think it's more memorable in just the sense that I didn't remember how just like, whoa, like you see the arm gone, and it's whoa, gross and shocking when you see it, and then and then his brother, who actually survived the blast and he is just fine, basically, was just like, I'm gonna give you my arm, bro.
Here you go.
Yeah, here you go. So
I don't know, the sin of Edward taking work away from local craftsmen. He's probably really screwed the local economy just because he wanted to draw Scar out for a fight.
Yeah, he's ruined the economy for the next month.
It's like he's out there like, I'll fix everything for you for free, and you got people like, hey.
Some contractor is super pissed that he repaired that food stall.
So
he's gonna single-handedly sue Edward Elric. It'll be like Smith v. Elric, but it'll be like Smith v. Emestrian military.
I'm super excited for that. for that side episode that is absolutely gonna happen.
It is totes happening.
That's gonna be next week, right?
Yes. For sure.
I've
actually already forgotten what the next episode's going to be.
Fantastic.
So we'll just pretend that it's going to be a lawsuit episode. It'll be Fullmetal Alchemist goes Ace Attorney.
It's about time anyway.
Yes. Isn't it about time that we had a Fullmetal Alchemist Ace Attorney crossover?
It is necessary. I'm sure someone has done it somewhere, because basically with the internet, if you can dream it, someone's done it.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, with all that being said, I guess we'll call it a show right there.
Sure.
This is the Sin and Violence podcast. I'm Ginger.
And I'm Kara.
And that was Sin and Violence,
the podcast of equivalent exchange.